What is currently happening in the Nashville real estate market as of October 2022? If you're curious about what we are seeing on a day-to-day basis and where the Nashville market is expected to go, then stay tuned because that's what I'm tackling in today's video. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Martin and I am a local Nashville real estate agent and founder of the Caitlin Martin team, powered by 𝐋𝐈𝐊𝐄 Realtors, the Andrews Group. I specialize in working with savvy sellers who want to sell right and sell smart, as well as working with out-of-staters looking to relocate to the Middle Tennessee area. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much. Please feel free to click subscribe down below so that you are notified anytime I release new video content. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about what is going on in the current state of the Nashville real estate market, what you need to know if you are thinking about buying or investing here, because trust me, I'm sure you've seen it for yourself, but all of the headlines out there are extremely sensationalized. I actually did a scan as I was prepping today's video, and they could not be more sensationalized and doom and gloom if they tried. They are trying to find the way to put the word crash in almost every headline, like prices are crashing and things like that. So there is a lot happening in the media, and the media is definitely spinning a sort of narrative. But what are we actually seeing here? What do you need to know about the Nashville market? Because what could be happening in another market across the country is not necessarily what's happening here. So I'm going to be diving into that data in today's video. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Okay, so what do you need to know off the top about the Nashville real estate market? We are seeing that inventory is up. We are seeing that the number of closings has dropped a little bit. We're actually down about 500-600 closings from September of last year over September of this year, because we are working off of September's data right now, and this was being filmed in October. So we are seeing that, but does that mean that we are headed for a real estate crash? It does not. So before you start buying into headlines of doom and glooms and crashes, just know we're gonna be walking through some data, and I just feel like we've got to talk about it kind of here at the top. So when you look at Nashville's real estate market, we actually have a lot working in our favor, even in the midst of a so-called national recession, or maybe it's not called that yet, but it's coming. However you want to call it, however they want to spin it, it's fine. Right now, what we are seeing though is ultimately homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer, but does this dictate a crash? Again, the answer is no. The way that our market had been operating over the past 2 years, our market was like a runaway train. That level of appreciation month over month that we were seeing, the insane demand and extremely low inventory, all of those market conditions were ultimately not sustainable long term. And Nashville, you gotta look at the history of Nashville. So if you look at the history of Nashville, over the better part of about a decade now, Nashville has been predominantly in a seller's market. So what does a seller's market mean? That means that conditions are technically more favorable for sellers, meaning that anything that sits on the market 5 months or less, if it were to take 5 months to clear out all of the housing inventory on the market, that's considered a seller's market. Anything 5 to 6 months is considered neutral, and then 6+ months is if it were to take more than 6 months to say, if you bought up all the inventory, it took more than 6 months, that's sitting in a buyer's market. We are still in a seller's market right now in the Nashville area. Nashville has been predominantly a seller's market for the better part of a decade now. We've seen ebbs and flows. It had been far more heightened and quick like we had seen over the past 2 years. I know when I bought my first place back in 2014, it was very much the same. Things were flying off the market so quickly that I was having to put in offers sight unseen. And so we have seen these ebbs and flows in our market, still being a seller's market, because again, Nashville has continued to draw people over the last decade plus. We've seen a growth in population And especially over the last 2 years, we have watched an enormous relocation population come into the mid-state. I know I've mentioned these stats before in a previous video, but if you haven't seen them, or maybe you have, but it does bear worth repeating. So we are expected to have another 1 million people come to Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, by 2040, with 57% of that landing in the Middle Tennessee area. Not only that, but I mean, we're supposed to have another 200,000 people here by 2025. Nashville continues to draw people for a lot of reasons. And so because of that, there may be a mess of things going on a national level. And that's not to say we won't feel impacts here in the mid-state, but because of Nashville's other strong factors, we are in a far better position to weather through a recession versus other places in the country. In fact, Realtor.com actually just within the first couple of weeks of October, they released a new study where they analyzed the top 300 metro cities across the US to see what was going to be the best places to still buy come fall of 2022, which is what we are in. And out of their top 20 list, Nashville/Davidson/Murfreesboro/Franklin. So they lumped basically a huge chunk of the mid-state into one group. We actually landed at number 13. And part of the reasons that factored into how they even chose cities for that was the vibrant local economies, the business communities, and also lifestyle factors that may make it more appealing to others to want to live there. So that is why we landed at number 13. So if this is one of your first videos that you're learning about the mid-state, let me give you a quick little tidbit. So Nashville, the city of Nashville, it falls within Davidson County. Davidson County is going to be right around the heart of downtown Nashville and the surrounding neighborhoods. Then you heard me also say Franklin. So Franklin is about 30 minutes south. And if you want to learn more about Franklin, you can click this video right up here that I did about just to learn more about the Franklin area. And then it also said Murfreesboro. And so Murfreesboro is a community that's going to be about 45 minutes. It's going to be southeast of Nashville. It's another great hub. It's actually a lot of people choose to live in Murfreesboro and commute into Nashville if they have a commute there. So we're talking about the mid-state. Are there other counties that factor into the mid-state? Absolutely. But those areas were the ones that were said to be some, it lumped together, they became number 13 on this list from Realtor.com as some of the top best housing markets to choose from come fall of 2022. So that's the thing. I've told a lot of people this because I have been having these conversations a lot, right? Because again, us as realtors on the ground, experiencing the market day in and day out, we are constantly having to combat news headlines that are sensationalized, that are meant to instill fear in you. And they're all talking about interest rates, which, yes, they've gone up. There's nothing we can do about it. And we will be talking about interest rates in just a second. But there's all of these headlines, but yet Nashville, we continue to grow. People are continuing to bring their headquarters here. We are continuing to see a heavy reload population come into the area, and that's not expected to stop anytime soon. We also have a great local economy because a lot of times the job economy, local job economies can speak to how well the city is doing. And so if you actually look at statistics, the Tennessean put out an article in October of 2022, and it said that Nashville, in terms of our local job economy, we are actually, not only did we recover the jobs that we lost due to the pandemic, we're actually up 6% in terms of the number of jobs since March of 2020. So our job economy is not only back, but it's better than it was before. Then on top of that, we actually have low unemployment. Our unemployment rate is actually below 3%. So we do have a local, healthy economy. We continue to make strides. I know in a previous video I talked about I showed a map of just the buildings that are planned for downtown Nashville that are expected to develop, or at least proposed to develop over the next several years, our downtown continues to explode. If you actually go down there, you're gonna notice a whole bunch of cranes in the sky because Nashville just continues to grow. And there's a lot to that. And I will say, because again, I know that a lot of people can start to get really nervous about the words recession and about a housing crash, especially if you really struggled during the crash of '08. The Middle Tennessee area, Williamson County in general. So again, if you're not familiar, you have Davidson County, which is around the heart of downtown Nashville, and then Williamson County is right south of Davidson County. That's where you're gonna find towns like Brentwood, Franklin, Nolensville, Thompson Station, Arrington, Spring Hill. Those areas, that Williamson County actually fared far better than most counties in the state of Tennessee when the recession did hit. Now, it's not to say it was completely recession proof. However, it did fare far better than others. So that's one thing to consider. Now, what are we dealing with, right? So we are seeing interest rates. That's something that we can't control. But when it comes to interest rates, let's talk about that, right? Because a lot of times people are using the interest rates as a reason to not purchase. However, we gotta also look at other factors. We can't let interest rate be the sole reason why we don't purchase, or interest rate plus news headlines. We can't do that because ultimately, look, for those that don't know, I actually used to work in local TV news. I got out about 8 years ago. I've been in the belly of the beast. And here's the thing, they are constantly hyping things up. And really, more than anything else, journalists are not experts in the real estate market. They are just conduits of information. And because of the way the news cycle works, they have to take a whole bunch of information and splice it down to itty bitty seconds of, little piecemeal of information and then spit it out. You can maybe use the news as a source, but you wouldn't use it as the main source. I'd actually talk to your trusted real estate professional and actually compare what they're seeing and what they know versus the article. Because again, a lot of what I have read, even in research for this video to know like what we're up against, a lot of that information was about cities whose economic factors and what they're dealing with is not what we're seeing here. So do we have to deal with interest rates? Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing. One of the sayings that you're starting to hear a lot is marry the house, date the rate. Because even if you get in now with an interest rate that is higher than what we've seen, you still have the ability, should rates go down, to be able to refinance. So let's actually talk about what we're seeing in the market and how we are noticing buyers and sellers adjust as we're walking through this new market. Because again, we were on an unsustainable path. Our market is now reabsorbing that excess that it had been giving when our market was wild. And now we're in a far more stabilized market. And so what does that mean for buyers? For buyers, yes, unfortunately, if you're a finance buyer, you are going to be dealing with a higher interest rate. However, like I said, marry the house, date the rate. You do have that option to refinance should the rates go down. But here's the other thing you have to consider. What if rates keep going up? Because every time the interest rate goes up by a point, that's costing you 10% of your buying power. So think about it. When our rates were in the 3s to where they are in the 6s, that's about a 30% decrease in your buying power, which makes a huge difference. So just waiting from say February to now has cost you money. Now, I completely understand that people can't help maybe when they're able to finance or what their situation is. But if you have that flexibility, that waiting, it has ended up costing buyers money. But what are we seeing? Well, here's the thing. We are still in a seller's market, like I said, which means that homes are still going quickly. However, we are starting to see some sit longer in the market. So for sellers, that means that we are actually starting to see sellers offering a 2-1 buy down. So what does that mean? It means that they are offering to buy down a buyer's interest rate by 2% for the first year and 1% for the second year, which makes a huge difference in a buyer's monthly payment, especially that first year. And the thought process through the 2-1 buy down is that you get through year 1, and if rates go down, refinance before year 2, or before your rate goes back up, to say whatever it is today, before it goes back up to that come year 3, again, you can refinance. But here's the other thing to consider. The 2-1 buy down is actually going to help you more as a buyer trying to get a buy down rate than it is going to necessarily be asking for a price reduction. Because here's a good rule of thumb. For every $10,000, equate that to $50 in a payment. So let's just use this example. So if you were wanting to go for a home that was, say, $350,000, and you wanted to ask for a $20,000 price drop versus a 2-1 buy down, as a buyer, that is going to run you for a price drop that's only going to save you about $100 in your payment, because again, every 10,000 equates to $50 roughly. However, if you ask for the 2-1 buy down, that's roughly, and again, numbers can shift as the interest rate moves a little bit, but it's gonna roughly save you $220 for that first year each month. So you got $220 a month in savings versus $100 for a price reduction. So that's something to keep in mind. Sellers are now willing to offer these 2-1 buy downs to go towards a buyer's purchasing power. So that way, that's an incentive to purchase on, that home. So we are seeing where sellers, whereas when we were in the insane market that we were in, we were seeing where sellers were taking highest and best. But now, what does this mean for sellers? It does mean that you need to do your proper pre-market prep, which means that you will need to make sure that your home is looking spotless from the get-go. And if you're curious more about how to prep your home for sale, again, click right here. This video here will actually take you to a video I've done about how to properly prep your home for sale. But it does mean that whereas when our market was crazy, sellers could almost do nothing and still get exceedingly over list price. But now it does still require just making sure you do that proper prep work. It does mean being willing and looking at the numbers to potentially offer a 2-1 buy down to help buyers. So there's a lot more that goes into it. But again, have I said it's still a seller's market? It is. So if you're actually looking at what days on market are, if you're looking within Williamson County and Franklin, the average days on market for September of 2022 was 11 days. So that's still showing a strong seller's market. Now, don't get me wrong. There are homes that we are seeing sit 50 days. There are homes that are still going in that first weekend. It just really depends. It depends on how competitively priced the home is and how well it shows. In Brentwood, the average days on market is 12 days. And in Nolensville, it's 7 days. So again, within Williamson County, things are still moving. So it's not where our market's more breathable now, but it's not to say that you can just sit back and hope that the same home's still gonna be on the market in 2 months from now, because the numbers are showing it most likely won't be. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, let's also dive into what the numbers look like for Williamson County. Let's take a look at what the median home sale price is in Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville. Now, all of these numbers are going to be for a single family home within those areas. So let's take a look at what the median home sale price in Franklin was for September 2022, and it was $868,750. That's actually up 25% from September of last year. Then in Brentwood, it's $1,100,000. That's actually up 20.6% from the same time last year. And then the median home sale price in Nolensville for September 2022 was $762,436, and that's a 33.8% increase from the same time last year. So as you can see, have our home prices appreciated? Absolutely. Now, couple of other things we got to talk about, right? So these are just things to expect. That, whereas in recent market updates, we were saying that the average home sale price was sitting, in Franklin at $1 million, you can see that it's come down a little bit. But again, this is not saying that home prices are crashing as the headlines would lead you to believe. It just means that we're having to be far more conservative with pricing, because again, whereas I mean, truly, at the beginning of this year, we had less than 4,000 homes on the market in the Middle Tennessee area, whereas now we have more than 9,000. So we have significantly more inventory, which means that buyers have a choice now. So because of that, it does still, we're just seeing that sellers, whereas they could be more aggressive with pricing when our market was more wild, we're now having to be more conservative. This by no means means that home prices are taking a dip. In fact, let's actually talk about that, because again, we're starting to hear this word recession. It's out there. It's the buzzword right now. We may be in one, we may not be in one, depending on how you want to define it. It's fine. But they're now saying that we could 100%, whatever we are in terms of a recession. When you hear that word, a lot of times people think recession, they think the dropping of home prices, and of course that gets scary because then you do start to think about 2008, right? Here's the thing. When it comes to a recession, in 4 out of the last 6 recessions that we have gone through in the country, home prices continued to appreciate in 4 out of the last 6 recessions. Now, 2008, yes, we saw home prices take a tumble. However, 4 out of the last 6, they actually continue to appreciate, just at a far more conservative rate. So what can you expect for the Nashville area? So home prices, they are still expected to continue to appreciate for multiple reasons. Our market, our local economy still remains strong. We still continue to be a hot relocation town. So we have a lot working in our favor. So Nashville is still on an upward trajectory. And we know, again, with those numbers that I told you, we're going to continue to see a push of people coming in here for the next several years. So with that is going to still come a demand for housing, which is still going to help drive prices. Now, with home prices still going up, another thing that if you're looking to buy, you have to consider. Now, we have already talked about it a little bit, but with interest rates, because as they go up, your buying power goes down. And I know that a lot of people keep saying, well, I'm just gonna wait until the market gets back to normal. But honestly, we don't know when normal's coming back. We really don't. And so, people who said that they wanted to wait earlier this year, well, now they've cost themselves in buying power. And again, I realize everybody has different situations, so please do not take this to be where I'm saying like, oh, it's your fault, because I realize everybody's situation is unique. But for those people that were like, well, I'm gonna wait, we don't have a crystal ball. There are headlines out there saying that in Q1 of next year that maybe interest rates will fall back into the 4s, but nobody can guarantee that. We don't know that. So while it could happen and that could be great, the opposite could happen. They could continue to go up in a response to what's happening in our national economy and what's going on. And so it's again, you're kind of stuck in a catch-22, because while you could end up with a better rate, does that mean that that's going to happen? No, not necessarily. The rates could continue to go up, and then you just cost yourself more money in waiting. The best advice is, because we can't accurately fully see what's coming our way, is if you are in a position to buy, marry the house, date the rate. And here's the other thing. For those of you who are renting but you want to buy, again, if you've never gone through the home buying process before, hearing all of these headlines can be really scary, and you can just be like, I don't even know what to do. I don't fully understand the home buying process. Don't worry, my team and we are more than happy to walk you through it, because here's the thing. Think about this. When you're renting, you're already paying a mortgage. It's just not yours. So you're helping somebody else pay their mortgage without you getting the benefits of building wealth through your home appreciation. So that's where, when you start to look at things that are now available on the table that weren't before, things like buying down a rate, that can really help your bottom line, especially that first year, and even money that you would have to bring to the table for closing costs. It can be really beneficial, because again, we know that 90% of millionaires become millionaires through real estate. So I say all of that because I don't want somebody to miss out on an opportunity just because they listen to news headlines. Nashville continues to grow. We continue to have a lot of local economic factors that point in a positive trajectory. We continue to have home appreciation. We've got a lot working in our favor. And again, I realize a lot of things can happen on the national scale, and I'm not saying that Nashville is recession proof. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we are poised to be in a better position than a lot of other places when it comes to our housing market and where our local economy is going. And so that's why if you're looking to buy here, if you're looking to move here, if you're looking to invest here, Nashville is a really good bet. So ultimately, I know this was a lot of information. Just to give you a quick recap, we are still seeing a strong market. It's just nowhere near the wildness that we had been seeing. Now, if you start to see these headlines that talk about prices are taking a tumble and the market's slowing down, it is. And prices are not tumbling, they're just stabilizing to where they should be based on our market conditions. And just so you also know, Nashville, especially historically, we tend to see a slow in our real estate market as we walk through the colder months, and then we'll most likely see an uptick again as usual, as tradition, come springtime. So again, if you start to take a look at headlines and you look at them at a very micro level, it can be really scary. But if you put the picture together on a bigger scale, it starts to paint a far less scary picture. So if you're thinking about buying, now is still a great opportunity. You've got more homes to choose from. You've got more sellers willing to make home repairs or concessions or buy down rates. So there's still a lot of great opportunity. We are still seeing in certain situations multiple offers. However, that's far less prevalent than what it was. And for sellers, again, you're gonna have more competition on the market just because we are seeing far more inventory than what we've seen in a long time. However, if you're priced right, you've done the proper pre-market prep, and you are show ready, you are still getting strong offers on your property. So if you have to sell, it's still not a bad time to sell. It's just we're not in the pinnacle of where the sellers got the sun, the moon, and the stars like they had been. But that's also, again, our market stabilizing, which should actually provide a little bit more peace to people going through the market at the time, especially if we start to tune out the sensationalized headlines. So if you have questions about buying in the Nashville area, relocating, investing here, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My team and I, we would love to assist you and walk you through the process, and even just have a conversation about what we're seeing in terms of whether making a move to the Nashville area is the right move for you. All of my contact information is below. My name is Caitlin Martin. I'll see you next time.